Okay, so we're starting off with a wide view here. You see can you guys see my mouse on the page?
Yes.
Okay, you
Yeah,
can.
I
Okay.
can. So it's good.
All right, good. So down here is the lower Schuylkill. And then there's this area here, which is fairly rocky and there's not a lot of rowing. And then we have the upper Schuylkill up here. So we're going to zoom in to the Hines Rowing Center. Well, actually, first, I think I want to talk about how to get to the Hines Rowing Center. And I think that's what it looks like to me. The best way to get there would be Route 76 and exit 332. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Conshohocken exit, right?
Okay.
Or
Conshohocken
depending where
exit.
they live, going out Henry Avenue and Ridge Pike, if that's easier for some people.
Okay. And then which avenue would be the best to uh, get over to Cherry Street from exit 332? Would it be?
Just come straight across the Fayette Street Bridge,
Uh-huh.
and as soon as you cross the bridge, you make that first right onto
Okay.
Elm Street.
Elm Street. Okay, great. That's perfect.
And
All
then
right.
any of the next four streets, you can turn right down to get to Washington. Turn left on Washington and follow it pretty much to the end. Get to a gate blocking the road, then you went about 200 yards too far past the gate in the Hines.
Okay, right. So that would be here. This is the road that we come in on. It is paved. And then we turn into this parking lot here. So we do have parking. You guys have parking here. I was also told if that's full, you can park over in this area here. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Right back to the lot. Go ahead.
Mike, I have a question. Lenny is here. If I do car top, where do I park?
Okay, if we had some people register as card toppers, they would still pay the regular fee. But where should they still park in the main parking? I should
Yes.
change this. Okay, so basically you just park right there with all the other cars. Give yourself room to take your single off. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, and if you're unloading your boat, you could pull over into the bigger dirt lot there where the trailer is and get closer to that to unload. But either way is fine. And if you use 801 Washington Street as in your GPS, it takes you right to the gate to come
Okay.
into the property there.
All right, great. So then our trailer is, we think that our trailer is going to be right where this little, around where this little mark is. So right here at the top, sort of parallel to the river. Right, Joe?
Yep. Yeah, and there's other outside boat racks you can see there in the picture. You'll be almost right next to those.
Okay. And then once we get a boat or someone you get a boat, we are going to have some wheels to use to roll the boat down if you need it. If you don't need it, you don't need to use the wheels. But we'll have two sets of wheels for the gigs, and then one little bit higher set of wheels for regular singles. And then is this green line a proper line to walk down to the docks?
Yep.
Okay. And then the first
Come right
stop,
down between the two buildings.
okay, great. And then we come down to these docks. Now these docks are actually, this dock has been replaced with a newer dock. So this will be the launching dock, and this is not the dock you'll see when you get there. It's pushed out a little further, and is it like this one? So this is a newer dock here.
They're both new docks. No, that one's taken out now too.
Okay, so these are going to be two new docks, and they're going to be pushed out a little bit further, which makes it easier to land and to launch. Okay, so this is the launching dock. Now, if you do bring the wheels down, I was talking to Joe about leaving the wheels probably off the dock. We don't want to clutter the dock with the wheels. So the wheels are going to be left up. Joe, is up on this grassy area here, or like?
Yeah, they can leave them up there or on the other side of that ramp. Either place is fine.
Oh, okay, on the other side of the ramp over here.
Yeah. We were first on between the two ramps.
Okay.
Or a little bit more to the right as you're looking at the screen.
Okay.
So the other dock has two ramps.
Oh, okay. All right. And so then the idea would be we would probably leave, either you can roll it all the way down to the dock and then put your boat in, but then you would have to make sure your boat doesn't float away to put the wheels back up. Or you could just put the wheels up here and take the boat at that point and walk the boat down, because that would be much shorter.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
Mike. Sorry, this is kind of a stupid question, and I think I know the answer, but just to confirm, so the left side of what we're seeing is upriver, the right side is downriver, and the upriver dock is the launch dock?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because this is right-hand rules, so this would be more like, this is actually regular rules, since the lower Schuylkill is reverse regular rules. So this is right-hand rules, like you're driving a car on a highway, or it's hard to kind of think of it that way since you're going backwards, but it is right-hand rule. So we're now going to go onto the course, and so this will be looking upriver. I'll zoom out.
Back up a moment. Presumably we take our oars to the dock first.
Right.
Yes, as usual. The oars will anchor the boat
Yes, thank you,
Right.
Karen.
And
while we take away the trolley.
right. And there's also buckets and a goose line that we have. And I know the kids do it a lot when I'm coaching them, when they have to run back and forth to help each other carry boats. They just take the line and wrap it around the oarlock. The buckets are weighted with either rocks or water.
Uh-huh.
So that
great,
could be
great.
another way to secure your boat.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have the Schuylkill down here on the left, and we're going to zoom back all the way in. And we see that we're facing upriver, and the green line is our rowing line. So we want to stay close to that line, all other things being equal. So this next dock is the Villanova dock, and the newer Hines docks are pretty much level with that. Is that right, Joe?
Yep. Yeah, they're pretty much all parallel now.
Okay, great. So we're going to be shoving, and the first thing we come to are just a little bit of foliage, like a fallen tree over here. So basically, we just, as long as we're in this third quarter. So if this is the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, last quarter of the river, just this green line, you're going to be fine. Is that right, Joe?
Yep. I say the general rule to probably follow is to stay, probably at least 20 feet out off the bank, either direction. And you're pretty safe. Just don't cross over the middle line, the red line down the center.
Yep, that's the double yellow. Think of it as double yellow. All right, so we're going upriver, and then we have the first thing we come to is it's a rope swing that kids use in the summer. So you just have to be aware that there could be kids playing there, also fishermen, Joe told me. And then there's another boat ramp as we go upriver. There's a boat ramp, but that's not that used. Is that correct, Joe? It's not used that much. Maybe not.
Yeah, no, the cement going into the water is all broken up. So I haven't seen anyone launch a boat out of there, like try to back in or anything.
Okay. And then we come up to the Conshohocken Rowing Center, and what's the activity like there nowadays?
There's not much happening now, but in July, they start summer programs with their juniors, which is mainly what they have there anyway. There's a few adult memberships, but
Okay.
not that many. So you would never have too many other people coming out. They usually row in the morning. I'm not sure what their summer schedule's looking like this year, but usually in the past, they've been there from 9 to like 11:30. And then in the afternoon, sometimes they'd have a session from, I don't know, 3 or 4 to like 5, or I guess 3 to 5 or something. So that'd be the times, and they go out in singles also with the kids, same as we'll be doing with our kids this year.
Okay.
So there could be a lot of boats on the water at certain times during the day. We row, we'll have kids from 12, in small groups though, from 12 to 5:30.
Okay. And then once we pass the Conshohocken Rowing Center, a little bit, again, if you stay 20 feet off the shore, you're not going to be hitting any of this stuff. Just some shallow areas.
Yeah, right
Um,
along the bank from the boathouse up to about the heliport can get very shallow, especially through the summer once the water level starts going down, which it is, right now. Once it gets below the 8 feet, about I guess 1,000 or 1,200 cubic feet per second. We use the Norristown Dam for our marker, not
Okay,
downriver
Norristown
where you
Dam.
guys are.
All right, for the flow rate.
Right.
Norristown Dam, okay. And then once it gets over 7,000, you said that novices or people that are maybe in gigs shouldn't be
It
going
gets a
out?
little trickier than probably like more closer to 8 or 9, but yeah, it can get,
Okay.
because we're pretty narrow. This section of the river in front of the boathouse generally stays fairly calm, even on windy days, unless the wind's blowing southeast or something, where it becomes almost a straight-on headwind or tailwind, depending which direction you're going. But our section there stays pretty calm, even, like I said, on the windiest days. And it's fairly easy to row about the 1,500 meter course area without too much difficulty. Once you go around the turn down below our boathouse, which we'll get to in a little bit, it can get really tricky with the currents once the flow rate starts getting up, to the 10,000 cubic feet per second.
But right now we're under 2,000 flow, so it's pretty nice. Okay. So then, so we're at this helipad here, which is basically a landmark. There's also a windsock there that they mention.
Yeah.
Where's that windsock?
I think the windsock's just to the downriver side of the helipad, and there's a red and white post to the with a light on top of it to the upriver side, I think. And the brush you can see there now, that's all been cut off the bank as well.
Okay.
So it's pretty clear to see from the river.
And then there's
the markers.
this little leaning tree that you said is it's off the water, so most likely when the river's low, you're fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the branches, like growing along the banks where the trees overhang, the branches are off the water, and you wouldn't get in too much trouble except when the water level's up really high, which doesn't happen much in the summer. But occasionally you can get vines or dead branches hanging down into the water, so you really don't want to get under the trees too much.
Okay. And then we're coming out to this area where there are some wires that go across the river. And we're going to say that the Bachelor's people should probably turn right here. There's no rowing past this this bridge. And it does get shallow and there's some rocks up here. Is that right, Joe?
Right, yeah. And you see just above the trees there a little bit in the water, there's some rocks even in there that are very clear, right where your hand is.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
You see that little white mark there? That's a pile of rocks. And during the summer, actually, when the water stays low for a while, there'll be grass growing in there. So it's pretty easy to see. But yeah, you don't want to go past that pile of rocks.
Yeah, it's also going to probably be higher current in here just because it's squeezed a little bit. So we're just saying we'd like you to just turn right here at these wires. The wires go across, easy to see, keeps everything safe, and you can make your turn. And now, so that was heading from the dock upriver to a turn point. All right, so now we are at the top and turning around. And the first thing that there are some rocky areas along the shore. And so basically it's still that 20 feet rule of staying off. Is that right? Is a little bit more than that, Joe?
Yeah, I tell the kids 25 to 30 just to be safe, but there's a line of rocks that goes, it's just below the surface. And from where you turn around, you'll see a boulder on the Schuylkill Expressway side of the river. And depending how low the river is, you might see some rocks right in front of that boulder that's on the bank. And then there's a line of rocks that goes down. There's a big pile of rocks a little bit farther down. And then you'll see a big platform in the water. Part of, I guess, an old building or something. It's actually cement and steel. People sometimes
Okay.
that are new there think it's an old dock or something, but it's cement and steel.
All right, this is probably
Came
this
from
part here.
something, but there's a line of rocks that's about 20 feet off the bank. If when it gets really shallow, you'll be able to see some of the rocks even just below the surface.
Okay, and then there is a 1,500 meter course, and there's marks, I guess, on both sides.
They used to. I don't know if the poles
Okay.
are still there,
All right.
visible even. They used to have
All
black
right.
and white posts, but a lot of
Essentially
them
from the
aren't visible
heliport
right
then?
now. Yeah, about from the heliport, from down to where we would, get to the big turn downriver a little bit. It's
Okay.
roughly 1,500 meters.
All right, so then we keep going. There's like some dangling vines along the edge here. So again, if you stay 25 to 30 feet off the shore, you're fine. Come back up here. This is a straightaway. Then we have this rocky outcrop and some drain pipes. And that would be past the rope swing and past the ramp on your right. And staying clear of that also keeps you clear from anything else that's in the water.
Just below that, there's a couple of dead trees in the water. So when you go past that pile of rocks there, that outcropping, just don't drift back into the bank. You can see one of the dead trees clearly there.
Okay. So this is basically we say that this has 500 meter mark, but it's really, if you're thinking about how much you have to go, it's the 1,000 meter mark. This is 500 in, or 1,000 to go if you're going to run a 1,500 meter piece. Now, Joe, can you do pieces in this area?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just it's same as any place, just make sure you're not near other people that are doing drills or slow or whatever, and keep your eyes open.
Okay. And then we have
yeah, you can go full pressure through there. It's a nice way to get in some nice short pieces.
Okay, great. And then dangling vines. There's across from as you're approaching the docks, it looks like there's some trees overhanging. So again,
there's one tree that comes out right over the water. That you definitely don't want to get in too close right there, probably.
okay.
It's mostly a dead tree that sticks out
Okay.
over the water there. And there are some rocks even scattered throughout along the banks there, so you never want to get back in along the bank. I know we talked about the shelf of rocks, that whole line up top, but occasionally we'll find rocks in along the bank, going downriver, or some trees that are just stuck in the mud underwater.
Okay. So then we come down here, and this is the 1,000-meter mark, which is right across from the, looks like the launch docks, or right between the launch docks. And this is just like a distance mark. It's 500 to go over here, and you're 1,000 meters in to the race. So that at this point, once you hit the docks, you know you have 500 meters left before the turn, which is coming up. And so, talking to Joe yesterday, I realized that this is probably the trickiest turn on the course because it's so long. It's this very long, slow turn. It's almost like when we're approaching, on the Schuylkill, we're approaching Columbia, and you have this long, slow turn to the right. Except here, if you mess this turn up, you could end up on the other side of the river fairly easily, and that would be putting yourself into the oncoming traffic. So we're really going to take a look at that right here. So we're coming up, and there's a garage. Is this a big garage here? This
SEPTA parking garage for the train
Okay.
station there.
SEPTA parking garage. So when you get to the end of this parking garage, that's the end of the 1,500 meters. So you would, you could be ending your piece. Let's see what's written here. If you're reviewing this,
It's pretty easy to see. There's a wall there, keeping the ramp from collapsing into the river. So it's a pretty good wall there where the ramp comes down and turns. It marks the end of the race course, kind of.
Okay. Yep, that's what that is right there. Okay. So
Yeah, you can see it pretty clearly there.
So interesting part about this part of the course. So as you're approaching the turn, the land actually comes at you a little bit. So the land comes toward you. So you just have to you almost have to hold off on turning. Since it's such a long turn, if you try to turn right here, you're going to end up in the land. Now, if you hold too long, you're going to end up on the red line, and we don't want that either. So it's almost like hold your line, and then start, once you pass the wall, then start the slow turn to starboard. Is that about right?
Yeah, and basically the turn comes in increments. You turn a little bit and row. They say if you think you're making the turn and go a little too hard, you end up under the trees. You don't turn enough, you end up on the wrong side of the river. But you turn a little bit and you kind of go straight, and then there's a little bit sharper turn as you come around. You just you basically follow the tree line, but don't get yourself into the trees.
Gotcha.
Because they said they do stick out over the water quite a bit, and then you get some low-hanging branches or the vines hanging down, or dead branches hanging. So you just have to keep watching. You should make that turn, and it's Mike said, it's a long turn, and parts of it go pretty hard. Parts of it are just very, very gradual. So you just after you're out there a couple of times, you should get used to it and figure it out.
Okay, great. And then so after you make your turn, the river does narrow a little bit. So that's another, it's not a time to say to yourself, oh, I'm in the clear, because if there's anybody coming this way, you really can't be on that red line. You have to make sure you're not on that red line. There's no red line out there actually, but you can't, you really can't be on the wrong side of the river or the left half of the river. As long as you're on the right half of the river, you're fine. But yeah, as you can notice, like here, it's a little wider, and then as you come up here, it kind of pinches in a little bit. And that's also due to some of the landmarks that are up here. All right, so let's take a look at, after you make the turn, there's this 2 poles over here, and this is something that from talking with Joe, is that people have missed this turn and ended up over here, where this little section, there's actually rocks and there's poles there to mark them. So you really don't want to overshoot the turn, and not just because it's people possibly coming at you, it's because these rocks are over here that you could end up on. Is that right, Joe?
And the current, yeah, and the current kind of pushes you towards them at this section of the river. So you have to be really conscious of the turn. And as Mike said, it really narrows the course there. It's about the narrowest part that we're going through right now on the whole part of the river where you'll be rowing. So you just have to be very, very much aware, because on the banks, there's some rocks that you can't get in too close to the banks. Going downriver on the upriver side, there's trees in the water, and then you have that two piles of rocks with poles, and the poles are centered in the there, so you don't want to get too close to the poles even. Thinking, my oars are clear of the pole. Well, your boat may not clear the rocks that are underwater, because they said the poles are kind of centered in those two piles of rock. So you still have to stay, a good 8-10 feet out off the poles. You can see in the screenshot there, you can see some of the rocks sticking up, which they should be exposed now a little bit. And as water goes down, you'll see them exposed a lot more.
So is this a rock here, Joe? This one that's like on the green line?
There are a couple rocks underwater in that area as well, but they're well underwater for singles and small boats. Like I said, most of the rocks that you find in the river, the coaches find with their motors.
Gotcha.
Occasionally, eights might lose a fin on some of them when the water level's down if they go over it exactly the right way, because some of them come up kind of to a point, almost like pyramid shape, and you have to be right over the top of it to take your fin off. But singles, small boats generally, clear. Unless the river gets really, really, really low, which I haven't ever seen it that low. Like you're talking like near the record lows. But most of the time, small boats are okay with those rocks that you might see in the center of the river.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna continue. We're making our starboard turn. We make sure we stay away from the other side of the river here. We're continuing down. And then there's a rocky point that comes out, and there's a buoy marking it. Is that buoy still there?
I'm not sure if that buoy's pulled off the bank. It gets pushed in pretty easily when the river comes up. So I'm not
Okay.
sure if the buoy's pulled out right now.
Yeah. So
I haven't been on the water for 3.5 months, so I don't know what's out there. Heck, maybe there's more rocks. I don't know. No. I think I found most of the rocks with my motor over the years I've been coaching there.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Down on the lower Schuylkill, we use as a monitor for water flow and stuff like that. One of the I guess it's the geologic survey points that is posted online. Is there one up there that you guys use?
Yeah, we do. Ours uses the Norristown Dam marker.
Norristown Dam. Okay.
And on the White Marsh web page, if you go to whitemarshboatclub.org, on the front page, there's links to the hydrologic prediction, as well as just the, whatever the flow rate is. There's two links, to the two different sites.
Perfect.
One gives you the prediction model.
Yeah, we could also,
as well as the current flow, and then the one that just gives you the current flow and height and all that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
yeah, we can change our bachelor's one to just go right to Norristown for now, because we're not using, or actually right at the bottom of the link to the, well, I'll take a look. I can probably add it. I'll probably just add it, since some people might still be rowing on Lower Schuylkill if they're car topping. Okay, so this rocky point is the next thing. Just watch out for that. We're going to continue.
So just when you make that turn, you have to make it a little bit more to starboard than what you may think you need to do, just because the way the current pushes. If you don't complete the turn, you end up on the wrong side very quickly. But you don't want to go too far over to starboard because there's a couple dead trees with branches in the water there just below Rocky Point. You're right
Okay.
around where his hand cursor is now.
Yep. Great.
So
And
so
then,
that's one of the tricky turns. Even the coxswains, the cox boats, which drives me even more nuts in the blind boats, you can see where the downriver to the island, you expect the coxswains to see, but sometimes they don't complete the turn. And then very quickly you're on the wrong side of the river. So they said it's usually, it's kind of like, almost like, I guess it explains an optical illusion. You think you have your point correct, but you don't.
the double,
So just
triple.
be careful coming around that. Yeah.
All right. All right. Coming up here, there's a cell tower on the right, just a landmark. But so this is sort of to indicate once you pass this cell tower, you should be starting to look for these hazards which are coming up. And this is where we said this is a good time to turn. If you don't want to deal with some of these hazards, you can turn here and just go back up and use this part of the river, this upper part of their stretch. Because as we go further, there's definitely more hazards. And this next part is they call it Hippo Rock. So if you don't turn here, additionally, I'll hit this because I have some stuff written down here. So further down the river, there are people doing things like water skiing, and it is the summer, so this is prime time for that sort of thing. And that's more like in the midday. There probably isn't going to be people there at 8 in the morning. Is that correct, Joe? Down there, but probably like 10 o'clock.
Sometimes there's people out early. 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You might find occasionally people out, but generally it's not till a little bit later in the day when it gets really busy. And they said they have people wakeboarding, pulling the tubes behind their boats, water skiing, jet skiing. And there are a couple people, unfortunately, that live down there that don't like the rowers too much and seem like if they see you coming, they'll potentially go out and do things around your boat.
Yeah, so my recommendation is to turn here unless you are, you're very ready for that kind of situation. Also, there's wakes. So we are not used to wakes on the Schuylkill. There are wakes here. This is not a wakeless only portion of the river. So if you don't know how to take a wake, you should realize you have to turn parallel to the wake and let your boat go over the wake lengthwise. You don't want to go directly into a wake. That's the best way for you to get some water in your boat, possibly sink. So our recommendation is to turn here.
Mike,
Yep.
what would be the best marker for that turning point that you're recommending?
You have Hippo Rock. It's an exposed rock that's, if you don't see the rock, then you shouldn't be out there anyway because the river's moving too fast.
Okay.
So it's you can see where it says Hippo Rock. It's a pretty big rock. So you definitely, if you're using
Okay, so
that
just
coming
turn
down.
before that.
Yeah. Because that's another narrow part of the river because you lose almost half the river. There's an island just downriver from where Hippo Rock is, and then you can see there's marks in there saying other rocks. There's a lot of rocks right behind Hippo Rock.
Yeah.
So upriver from there's no recreational boating then? Motorboating?
Occasionally the jet skis will come up to our section where we're showing you now, up past the boathouses. Usually if it's a bigger boat, they're usually not going too fast. It's someone coming up to look the fish. So there are other boats out there all the time, this time of year. But the ones what you'd really have to be concerned with, where they're racing over an occasional jet ski that'll come all the way upriver, is down below the island.
Okay, so we are going to go down below the island and show you what that is like. There are benefits to going down there, right, Joe? If you are like,
Yeah,
need
it's
to,
much wider. It's a little bit safer as far as hazards. It's wider. It's not perfectly straight, but from once you get below the island, there's a VFW, and usually we use that dock there that's at their building down almost to the Gladwin boat ramp is about 2,000 meters. If you wanted to, have a fairly straight 2,000 meter course to row on. It's not perfectly straight, but it's fairly straight.
so the point is, if you are doing a purely recreational row, we recommend the easy thing to do would be to turn where this little blue line is before you get to this rock, and then just head back upriver. So we're going to continue down, and we're going to talk about the Hippo Rock, which is this little area here. Now I have another view of it, which is Google Maps, which shows you, this is what we're talking about. So see how there's a little bit of rocks right here. There's the main rock, but there's some now. Right now they're probably more exposed. Is that correct, Joe? Since it's lower.
Yeah, there'll be, as the water level goes down, you'll see some more of those rocks in there behind Hippo Rock.
And then there's it looks like there's a small underwater rock here in the middle. Is that right, Joe?
Right, yeah, almost directly between the bank and Hippo Rock, about halfway across, there's another rock. Generally, like I said it before, most of the rocks that are in the middle of the river you find with your motorboats more than, especially singles and doubles.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the map, and so just knowing you really you should stay away from this whole area here, because as you saw in the other picture, there are some underwater rocks, and possibly you can see them. And then over here, there's in the middle. So you do have this lane that will take you safely through where the blue line is. And then over here, we have a field of submerged rocks, which are probably visible when it's lower. And then there's water behind this island, but you can't get through. It just ends up being over here. So there's no reason to go back there. So if you stay, in this lane, and you can get through here, and you can get past the island, things do open up. So let me just hit this here real quick. It just tells you that it's not navigable over there. And then back here, see that. And then there's a little bit of information here on the Hippo Rock. In case you're watching on video, you can pause and take a look at this. But we talked about all this stuff already. So, okay. And then, so coming up here to this long stretch. It's a very long stretch. It's a very nice long stretch. And there's just this information from the bowing guide. So if you're watching the video, you might want to pause and look at that. But we talked about, there are boaters down here. There are pleasure boaters and water skiers and that kind of thing. So early morning is probably the best time to be rowing on this stretch. Is that right, Joe?
Generally, yeah.
Okay.
Because even in the evening, like when our masters go out, sometimes there's people out there.
Yep. Okay. So we are going to go over this stretch, and there are places. This is the new houses they refer to. So this is a stretch where there's new houses.
They're down a little bit, yeah.
Yep.
Where the the gray roofs are right there. That's all the new houses. And there are a couple other new ones that have been built recently, torn down some old ones that were pretty old and looked like shacks, and now they have nice or much more expensive, I guess, fitting for Gladwin.
Well, so now we, as you can see though, there isn't a whole lot of hazards. So it is a long stretch. The only hazards would be these movable hazards, which are like boaters. So that's where, you know, that it's a toss up whether you decide to come down here or not. And then,
I was out there in a kayak on Monday night at about 6 p.m.
Yep.
And there was a lot of traffic down there.
Okay.
There were jet skis, there were
case in
there were
point.
water skiers and power boaters and everything. And actually, I saw there was a sculler there who I'm guessing was from Hines, who looked like he was having some trouble with the wakes.
Yeah.
So
Right. So this is for people who are training, who are going to row out of this area, who really want the meters. And the recommendation is you got to go in the morning, it's better to go early when there are people haven't decided to go out and play in the river yet in the summer. But you would have to kind of maybe go down there the first time and with the idea that maybe it's not going to be good today. So even in the morning. All right. So if
And
you're
there is one guy that likes to go out, it seems, before work, I guess, and get a workout water skiing, but it may not be every day. And if it's just one boat, you can manage that because you can see it coming or know it's going to come back if it went upriver once past you, and just keep your eye out. But other than that, the morning is usually the best time to be down there. Once it gets to late morning and through the afternoon into the evening, there's a lot of activity. So most of the houses have boats. You'll see all the docks at the houses. Plus you have Skip Stotesbury has his little marina there where boats come out of, and the Gladwin public ramp. You'll see numbers of people coming in there and launching jet skis or power boats and stuff.
Okay, so here we are. This is at the bottom of where I would recommend if you do take the if you choose to go down here, this is where I'd like everybody to turn. This is at the boat ramp. It's a nice, easy landmark to see. And the reason is because there is a dam, a low-head dam. This is their dam here. So we want to really stay far away from that. This is an easy place to turn. And I'll just pop this on here. This is actually the same as the upriver. So just to be aware of that. All right.
There are buoys marking the dam, but you still don't want to get that close to it.
Okay.
So I did tell Mike yesterday, it's not a bad dam to go over. It's not like the Fairmount Dam that's pretty much a straight drop. It's a nice slope. I used to go swimming there many, many years ago when I was younger, and you could slide down it like a sliding board. It gets covered with algae, but
yeah,
I don't think you want to slide your boat down the ramp.
No. It's also, if the river gets, if it's fast, then it becomes, it's dangerous when the current is higher.
Right.
Okay, so there are a few landmarks and a swimming area. So we're going to go over that on the way up. So now we're heading back upriver. There's a landmark that's used here, which is a white peaked roof on the right. And the river begins to bend to port after that. And then I don't know what this octagonal shaped structure on stilts is, but do you know what that they're talking about there?
And I think just the building someone has
it's like a weird house.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then the next thing I saw here is this tiki bar, which is this little raft, like a little party barge. That once you get to that, there is we have to start looking for some swimming areas. Now, there's a marina here. This little marina, what they call the marina, like little boat slips. You just got to watch out for that. And then it looks like there's a little beach here, but I'm not sure if this is the swimming area. Get it a little way.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've seen people swimming down there. That's where Skip Stotesbury's little marina place is. I know
Okay.
the one area is it's up near the end of the houses on the Philadelphia White Marsh Township side where there's, and it's kind of marked off. There's some buoys that kind of, you
Okay.
know, form a little rectangle in front of the one house where you see kids swimming and stuff a lot.
Okay. Okay, so here's the
And
swimming
that house
area.
has the big flagpole. Yeah.
So we think this is the swimming area here.
Possibly up that area, maybe a little bit farther up even.
Okay, but you said there's buoys marking it off.
Yeah, there's buoys, and it doesn't really like extend that far out into the river, you know, much more than any of the little docks there for the people with their boats. You know, so you shouldn't be in
Could
that
this
close
be?
anyway. Plus, you have the trees.
This looks like a
Maybe
little
up to the top of
beach
the screen there, right? Possibly right in this area, just right there
with a
where
looks like
that
a little
dock
beach
is,
there.
and
Okay.
moving up. Trying to think, that last house, I think, is where they have it. Maybe trying to
This
see,
is
there's a building, and then there's a couple smaller, like just. Yeah, so that's the last building, I think, and just downriver from that, where we were just a second ago, I think is where the swimming area is marked off. So just downriver a little bit from where it says water tower, where you can see on the bank.
okay, and there's a little bit of a shallow area here. This is across from the new houses where there's you can see the land there. So just stay on your green line.
Right. It's very clear right now because the water is so low that shoal. Usually we have trouble with that when, well, last year the water finally came down again, but for the 2 previous years, the water stayed up and people kind of got used to being able to row kind of close to that. And then the water came down again last year and we damaged a couple boats there, a couple of the quads where it says shoal. So, but right now it's pretty clearly visible. It's a huge shoal and it sticks way out. So as you go past that last house and the river kind of widens again, don't follow in along the bank. Just stay toward the middle a bit and keep your eyes up. And we have a buoy out there on that. And it was still there early in the spring when we started rowing. Hopefully it's still there now.
Okay, great.
And that was anchored into the ground, actually, right on the shoal. Drove some metal poles down into the ground and tied the buoy off on that.
Okay.
But see this last house there, where you can see at the bottom of the screen now. You go past that, and they said the river starts to widen a little bit. Do not follow the bank. Stay out.
Okay.
Because that's when you get in trouble and get near that shoal.
Okay, great. That was good. All right, coming up here, we come back to that island again. And just some thoughts about continuing from this point. All right, there's a sandy point here. So this is a bit of a pinch point where there could be some fishermen on there.
Yeah, they come out on that point.
Okay. And then we have some trees, a little bit of trees here. And then just avoid this on your way back up. Make sure you just watch out for this rock in the middle. So you want to always want to stay off the middle anyway, but just be aware that if you meander into the middle, especially if the water's low, there's still a chance that you could come in contact with that rock. And now we are past the island on our way back upriver. There is a little white ball.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Joe?
I was gonna say, when you come around that turn past Hippo Rock, it's the opposite of when we came down past Rocky Point coming down river. I said you think you made your turn, but you really didn't. You have to really be careful and keep moving to starboard. Same thing happens going upriver coming past Hippo Rock. You start coming around that turn, you think you're lined up, and you actually have to keep moving around a little bit more because the current there kind of pulls you. As you come downriver, it pushes you towards the wrong side. Going upriver, right there, where just above where you have the turning area, right in that area, that orange area, you have to make sure you keep making the turn. Just follow the bank, but again, not too closely because the trees overhang and there's some dead trees in the water. You don't want to get in close to the bank, but just complete that turn because if you don't, you end up on the wrong side of the river very quickly.
Okay, great. And then there's a white ball after that, after coming back upriver, passing on, there's a little white ball, and that marks a rocky.
It just marks a rocky area, but boats are fine going through there. It's more a reminder to coaches because there's a number of rocks there that are very shallow for motorboats. Even the big boats clear them most of the time. Unless the water is really, really, really low, you might take a fin off a big boat. The singles wouldn't have any problem in that area. They said it's the motorboats, you hit your motors on, then you have to get a whole new lower unit put on your motor, which becomes kind of expensive after you knock a few of them off.
And you can go on either side. You can go on either side of this white ball as you're coming up river.
Right.
All right, and then we have just a little bit of trees, a little bit of debris in the water here. And now, let's see if we have anything on here. Yep. Submerged tree branches extend out to the rowing lanes.
And a couple of the dead trees that are in the water have been down for a number of years now. So a lot of the branches you used to be able to see have broken off, but there's still a lot of stuff underwater. So you definitely have to be careful. We actually had to replace a rigger on one of our quads this spring to go out there. Got a little bit too close and caught one of the branches, and I don't know if it pulled up from underwater as well. But you had to get a new rigger on one of our quads.
Okay. So now we're coming up to looks like a little bit of a turn to port at the Rocky Point, just to keep your point for the big turn. So approaching the big turn is also approaching the two poles. So we're going to take a look at that a little bit. So
you definitely want to stay more toward the middle of the river, obviously not getting to the wrong side of the middle. They said this is that narrow stretch where there's hazards in on the bank and then you have the poles. So you just have to pick a line, aiming toward the poles as you head up through that stretch. And then as you get closer to the poles, move a little bit to the middle to get around the rocks there, just to avoid getting on the wrong side. But don't stay in on the bank. They said there's a couple dead trees anyway in on the bank that stick out pretty far. So you're going to be a lot more than, they said the general rule is staying to 25 feet out off the bank. It's just, you're going to be a lot closer to the middle coming up to this section.
Right. And then, so there's also this sandbar up here. So, once you get past the two poles, then probably take a point on the sandbar. Is that right, Joe? Just to get yourself in a good position.
Aim a little bit toward the sandbar. Don't start trying to make the turn too soon, because if boats coming down river get a little bit wide and you're cutting the turn a little bit too much, then you obviously have a collision. So aim a little bit toward the sandbar. That keeps you to your side of the river. Then as you get to the sandbar, then you can start making more of the turn.
All right, and now we're coming back up to making your turn here to port and approaching the end of the parking garage. Now there could be some fishermen up there.
Yeah, peel fish off the parking garage wall there. Or even on the sandbar that's down that we just passed. So, and sometimes if you're out in the evening, there's people just out there partying on that sandbar.
Okay. So is this a sandbar in here?
A small one just below the parking garage. That's not visible usually, but it gets really shallow right there. Is there a
Okay.
place where a creek or a drain comes in? Most places, if you see where's a place where a creek is coming in or storm drains or something, there's usually a pretty good buildup right in front of them.
Okay. So then once we get to the end of the garage, probably start to think about your final point upriver, because it still is turning along the garage.
Yeah.
But once you're at the end of this garage, the upriver end, it looks like you have a straight shot into the dock. So we'll continue up here. How about these trees here? Are they something to think about, Joe?
Yeah, they said that a lot of the trees, because the trees here are right on the bank. It's not like where you were, where they're up above the water quite a bit. You have a wall right on the river. So
Yeah.
these are right on the bank, right on the river. And most of the time your oars will be fine going under the tree branches. But they said occasionally you do have vines or things hanging down. So you generally don't want to get under the trees too much.
Okay. This is as you approach the dock. Slow down, stop, make sure the Hines Rowing Center docks are clear. You can safely pull in. And move your boat upriver to make room for other returning boats. And vacate quickly. Okay?
Yeah, and you can see on the picture, the first dock is where we park wakeless launches for all the teams. There's a couple still in the water. Most of them have all been pulled out. But now with the new docks sticking out more, you can see where the launches are pretty much parallel with that dock that we see now. The new dock sticks out another 8 or 10 feet beyond that. So you don't have to worry about the wakeless launches getting past them, then turning into the dock. It'll be almost a straight line parallel with the wakeless launches you can see in the picture there, and much easier landing on the new dock.
Okay, great.
Or it should be. We had the new docks put in, while we were on break. So I haven't seen too many people doing it, but it should be a lot easier getting in now than what it used to be. You don't have to hang out and then take a steeper line into the docks once you get past the wakeless launches.
Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is just fly the course, meaning I'm going to go all the way up, around, come all the way down, and come all the way back up. I'm going to do that quickly, but just so that you can just see what we went over. Just make sure I get a good view here. Okay, here we go. Oop. All right, so get a little closer. Okay, now we're going back. Now we're going downriver. I'll probably put this on YouTube, and you can also speed up using the speed controls on YouTube at the bottom. You can choose like 2 times, 1.5 times. So you can also speed up the way we talk in case you want to get through it, faster. But getting to the end here. I'll just drag it all the way back up. And we're
Mike, how
back.
are you going to list it on YouTube?
Well, I'll just send out a link to. Once I have it up, I'll send out a link to it.
Okay.
Unless there's I might put it on a Microsoft Drive, which will just be open to sharing. I just want to make sure that there's speed controls on that first.
Mike,
Yep.
would you download Google somewhere?
What's that?
Would you download Google Earth overlay, which will mark all the like obstacles and course?
I can do a place. I think I can pack. It's a places like a KMZ file or something like that.
KLM or KMZ, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I can have that. Yeah, because I can provide that. Yes. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other
And
questions?
Yeah, Joe or Mike, if we turn at both of the recommended turning points, it looks like it's 3,000 meter round trip. Is that correct?
Probably about, I'm trying to think. The upper section, if you don't go around the turn we showed, you have basically a 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles. So you get your 3,000 meters just doing the loop right in front of the boathouse before you go around the big turn. get around the turn to the point where Mike marked would be at another, at least 2,000 meters total, probably more than 1,000 meters downriver, probably another getting close to another mile, I guess, going down. And if you go all the way down to the Gladwin boat ramp, you go upriver to where you turn all the way down to the Gladwin boat ramp, in a round trip, that way you've done almost 8 miles.
But
There's
the recommended turns is
the recommended turn probably like a 3 mile loop.
3
would think.
miles. Okay.
Down
Thanks.
to that, down to that area. And say if you go all the way down to the Gladwin boat ramp, then you've done about an 8 mile loop. There's a big map on the wall in the boathouse that has all the
Okay.
different marks and how far you've traveled. It's marked in actually kilometers, because that's how our login system works for keeping track of things.
Okay. I have one more question. If you're coming via the bike path, I'm talking about directions getting there. If you're coming via the bike path and cross over the tracks at Spring Mill Station, then which direction is the boathouse from there?
You want to go up to Cherry Street.
So
You
north?
can't really get across at Spring Mill because there's David's Bridle, but then the property next to David's Bridle between us and David's Bridle is blocked off, or supposed to be. It seems like people have been getting through down that David's Bridle and lately though, so I don't know. There was a fence around that property.
Well, by bicycle though, you can get through?
It seems like people have been coming up that way now, but we've blocked off the road and the property going through from that side on our end too. So going up to Cherry Street and then coming back down is probably the easier way.
Okay.
And this is Lois. I just want to remind everybody that we do follow CDC, Pennsylvania State, and U.S. rowing guidelines, which means that come dressed to row, we have blocked off our locker rooms and indoor toilets. There is a Johnny on the spot, and across about 6 feet away, there's a hose with sanitizing soap and a drain. Also, the other thing I want to remind everybody is please wear a mask once you get out of the car or off your bike, I guess, or whatever, and take it off once you're on the water and put it back on when you're ready to bring your boat out. The other thing is with the Bachelor's Trail or the Drexel trailer, I will have a bucket with bleach and water to dip your oar handles in, and also a bucket with wipes, with the sanitizing fluid. So I'll have one of each at the trailer, since a number of people will be on that trailer. And I think that's, if you have any questions about, and we will do this as long as the guidelines predict, even if we go green, when we go green, which we will be going green Friday, and maintaining the 6 foot distance. I had to do that announcement.
And Mike,
don't forget, very important, you must use iCrew for your reservations and your time that you will arrive and leave. Why? Because I am responsible to track everybody that is on the campus. In case somebody is diagnosed with the coronavirus, I then have to track them back. So it's a need to know. And that's why everything has to be done through iCrew. And I certainly do appreciate if you abide by this.
Great.
thanks, Lois.
And if you see the course where at the recommended turning points where it's 3,100 meters, I think if you go all the way to the end, it becomes 5,000 meters. Now,
Mike
as far
and
as,
Joe?
hey, John.
The question I had is on the turning spots. Just want to make sure they're visible, that I can see them. Going upriver, you said there's wires, there's cables that go across.
Yes.
Pretty visible. They're power cables.
They're not real big, but you can see them, especially once you get past them if you just keep looking up. But you can see them pretty easily.
I figured that. Going downriver though, there was something about before we, the recommended turn I think is before Hippo Rock, and I think I saw on the map,
Correct.
there's a cell tower on the, I guess, the Bala Kinwood side or the Lower Marine
Right,
side.
on the Lower Marine side.
Is that visible that we could use that for a?
Oh, yeah.
Turn?
Yeah, and it's not one of the ones that look like a fake tree or anything. It's a regular, looking
Okay.
tower.
All right, great, great.
Yep. So it looks
I
like
have a
once you,
oh, sorry. I have a
ahead.
question about iCrew.
ahead.
Does it, when we log on, does it reservation system limit the number of people that can be on the river at any one time?
Yes, but I don't think we're going to run into that problem based upon the time of the rows. The easiest answer for that is you'll see right on iCrew how many have reserved the time, let's say for 6:45, 7 o'clock, 7:15. They're in 15-minute intervals. And everybody who's launching should be launching 15 minutes apart. And you can actually get two to launch off of the launch dock at the same time, or close to it. I mean, it's
And
not
then-
synchronized.
I think
Lois,
the recommendation was about eight people every 15 minutes or something, but yeah,
Okay.
there's not nearly that many going on. The
then,
other thing Mike and I talked about yesterday, and Lois even suggested, try to set up some times if people want to go out on a launch just to see at least the main part where we have the turn at the top and the recommended turn before Hippo Rock. Could probably go down to the island depending how much time I have just to go through that part of the river. If people want to go out on a launch, and take maybe one or two people at a time.
So our
out for a
plan,
quick little tour that way.
our plan with the trailer is to, it'll be there. Our trailer will be there Monday night. Drexel trailer will be there Monday night on Boathouse Row in the evening, and then allowing for loading starting as early as you want to load Tuesday morning through the day until 2 p.m. And then at 2 p.m., I'm taking it to HRC. And at that point, we'd like people can come probably around 3 o'clock with social distancing to help rig the boats. And then around 4 o'clock, Joe said he could take a group out on the water in a launch, and then again at 4:30. Is that right, Joe? About a half an hour, or is it, do you need?
Yeah. Yeah, it won't take, probably, that should be fine in a half-hour interval.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
And
also,
we take a couple shifts out.
I did receive something from Hines saying you can have a buddy help you carry your boat down. And so if people come together as two people, they can take, they can help each other, but we'll also have the wheels. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Okay. And then,
Right now, our masters, a lot of them can't carry the boats themselves, especially the ones that are still using the gigs or the trainers. So they've been,
Yep.
One at each end of the boat. You're plenty separated.
okay. And then when you allow home doubles, you will let us know, correct? Like doubles.
Yes,
family
and I
doubles.
think everybody will know because that will be announced in the revised recommendations. They change every week.
Okay.
Fortunately, we seem to be going more, let's say, normalizing, and yet we hear statistics where the virus is peaking again. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mike,
Well, is
what
there
boat are
a,
you taking? I'm sorry.
uh,
What boats are going what boats are you taking up to Hines initially?
We are deciding that today, but we're taking a good number. It should be a good variety of boats. But we have all your requests, so we're going to try to accommodate as much as we can.
so are BBC oars coming up also, and will they be with the boats near the trailer, or where do we get the oars?
Yes, that's correct. And we're going to send out a little email to ask for helpers to help us load everything. But yes, the oars will be on the trailer, and they are going to be marked. They're marked with a little piece of tape. So 3 pieces of tape for large, 2 pieces of tape for medium, and 1 piece of tape for small.
And I have one other question.
Go
It's
ahead.
probably not one that you can answer, but if they've paused dredging on Boathouse Row, is the anticipation that this will probably be at least through the end of the summer and into September possibly?
Well,
I do hope for everybody's sake that they sort out their dredging. And if you mentioned, and I have no knowledge of really what's going on in the dredging, but maybe they realize they need a bigger dredge. Maybe that's why they took the dredge away. I don't know. But depending upon the schools, and when the scholastic schools permit rowing again as a team sport, we may have to make some adjustments with time, because in the spring, which is what we're approaching, there may be as many as 500 that leave the docks between 3 and 5 o'clock. So with team boats. So it all depends on how things progress with the release of the guidelines. So as I've always said, the best answer, the most correct answer I can give anybody is, I don't know.
Thank you.
So I'm expecting, I'm expecting one way or the other that we'll be out of there by September 1st. And Lois, do you think that's a safe thing to say?
I don't know.
As far as when you might need your docks.
Yeah, I will try to accommodate as many fellow rowers, except I'm lying there because I am not a rower anymore. Maybe in the future. I will try to accommodate as many as possible.
Okay. And
the thing is, there's eight high school programs. I think 8 on the premises.
It is 8.
The junior club, the junior section from White Marsh, and then 2 college teams, and then the White Marsh Masters. So it gets quite busy once the schools open up, depending what they're allowed to do.
And when do they typically start coming down?
And usually after school opens, that first week into the second week, different schools start different times. A few schools have started before school opens, like at the end of August a little bit, but most of them wait till the first or second week once schools reopen. And of course, we got to wait and see what they're allowed to do.
Yeah.
If I'm guessing, the fact that they've canceled, no, they haven't canceled Head of the Charles yet, or Head of the Schuylkill. But if they're canceled, I would suspect that there will be fewer scholastic schools rowing in the fall full tilt. I don't know.
So more or less through the end of August, there may still be some rowing that we can do there through the end of August. May, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael, the rowing log on the laptop in bachelor's, is that being replaced by iCrew?
Correct. We are not using our log down at the boathouse, down trailers, and we just can't do it. There's no way to do that. And also, is that the only log we would use then, Lois, the iCrew? We don't have to, there's no other log we have to log into?
It would be iCrew.
Okay.
There is a log that White Marsh Boat Club keeps for their own members to track their miles, but that would not be appropriate for the Boathouse rowers to log on to.
Can you track your miles on iCrew, like your own miles?
Yes, to a certain extent, yes. The person that can answer all these questions is Amy McLean, and I've given her telephone, and she's very helpful. I think she's on telephone duty 7/24.
Okay.
No matter when you call her, she's willing to help you. There are tutorials on iCrew, and also you can ask questions on iCrew. And remember, it was developed by a rower who is very intuitive, and he's from Seattle. Keith, what's his last name, Joe? Do you remember? Something like Keith Guerreri or something.
Okay. So we'll be sending all the names over to Amy on Monday, and we'll get everybody, you know, they'll start to see an email with instructions and their code to sign up. And
Right,
then,
exactly. And
you know,
you can have, I mean, she'll give you a code, or when I signed up, I said, here's my code. I just didn't want to change it. So, you know,
Yeah.
Anybody who knows my code, my whole world is opened up to.
okay.
I think this was wonderful, Mike. I really do. I appreciate, you've done a lot of work. You've put a lot of hours into this and designing it and everything, and it's going to be useful for a long time.
Great.
Thank
great.
you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to stop the
Very
recording.
welcome.
Very helpful.
I'm going to
Yeah,
stop
and
the recording.
Joe, you were great.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
guys.
everyone.
It was great.